Good morning, fools. Welcome to the All Jammed Up podcast presented to you by Music Never Stopped. I'm your host, Clint.
I'm your co-host Chloe, and we got an album tease from the King.
Well, we're all jammed up and we're ready to blast. It's time for Clint and Chloe's Music Podcast.
The King, indeed. If you saw his Instagram post on Tuesday night, it looks like we have an album coming.
So he claims best album yet.
Best fucking album.
Best fucking album yet. Grammy winner.
Yeah, I saw that dude heading that posted. There's like a video of Kobe Bryant on the Lakers. They were up like 2-0. And you have to win 4 games to win the championship. And the commentator was like, "You don't seem happy. Why aren't you happy?" And he was like, "Job's not finished." And then it was like Billy Strings after winning a Grammy and then announcing an album the next day.
Immediately in it. Yeah, that is incredible work on him. I wonder if he timed that intentionally. I mean, you don't know if you've won a Grammy, do you think?
Probably not. I think he probably did it for his tour so he can play some new songs. But we'll save all that for Monday's episode. We'll do, because we have Billy Week next week here in Nashville, starting Tuesday.
I'm so excited.
So we'll do like a whole Billy preview on Monday's episode.
Okay.
But today, we have Jay Blakesberg, legend in the Grateful Dead universe.
Super awesome interview. Super cool opportunity to interview him.
Yeah, and it's a solid hour. He's got some really cool stories. Some stories about the Dead, and then some stories about him, like traveling as a kid, getting caught up in the, what did he call it? In the selling acid, pretty much. I can't remember the word he used, but caught up in some selling acid. So it was a really great opportunity for me to kind of, I've had Mark Herron and had David Gans, and just getting the opportunities to be with these people that were like really in that Grateful Dead world is really awesome. And he mentions he's doing like a slideshow thing presenting his Grateful Dead pictures. And he's doing it in like St. Louis. He's got one at Garcia's up in Port Chester, and then he's doing it with our friends in California. Music Never Stopped.
At the Ecology Center.
Yep. So there's links in the description here. If you can make any of those, check it out. That guy can definitely tell stories, so I'm sure that's going to be a great time. We got a bunch of fun stuff on the back end too. Finally, some music. We got new songs of the week, and maybe some more. So stay tuned. But here's an interview with Jay Blakesberg.
Honey, you're listening to some all jammed up.
Alrighty, guys. We are here today with Jay Blakesberg, photographer, author, producer. Did I miss anything else?
I don't know. Book publisher.
Book publisher too? Yeah.
Public speaker.
And we're doing this interview on January 31st. Which is a special day to Jay, and I'll let you go ahead and kind of explain to the listeners why we chose today to do this interview.
All right. Well, thank you, Clint. Nice to see you. January 31st, 1991 was my first formal portrait of Jerry Garcia. I obviously photographed the Grateful Dead and Jerry on stage, and also had photographed Jerry in a variety of candid moments. But this was like my first assignment to do a portrait of Jerry. And it was for the Golden Road magazine, which was a Grateful Dead fanzine that a guy named Blair Jackson and his wife, Regan McMahon, published in the 80s, going into the early 90s. And it was a really, really great magazine that really dug deep into the Grateful Dead culture. And I got a call about a month earlier, probably in December, from Blair. And I had been published in the Golden Road starting in 86, and then started shooting stuff for them after that. Blair would have me shoot different things here and there. And he called me up and he said, "I'm doing an interview with Garcia and Hunter next month in January. Would you like to do the photographs for the story?" And of course, I freaked out internally, and I'm like, "Yeah, cool, man, I can do that." And at that point, I had already been doing a fair amount of portrait work. I had shot a bunch of magazine covers, and I'd even done formal portraits of Bob Weir by then. In July of 1990, Bobby hired me for the first time to do some portraits of him. So I was pretty comfortable. But this was super exciting for me because I was going to be doing a one-on-one portrait of not only Garcia, but Garcia and Hunter together. They did very, very few interviews together. There's actually very, very few photographs of them together. There's a handful here and there out in the world, but there's not a lot of pictures of Garcia and Hunter together, oddly enough. And so I was super excited and went down to the Grateful Dead office in San Rafael, and which is up in Marin County. And they stuck me in this little tiny office in their bigger office. It was Robert Hunter's office. And it was so tiny that I literally had to be like kneeling down on the desk with them sitting behind the desk up against a wall with some plants to shoot them. And, I brought in some studio lighting, and I was expecting to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes with these guys, shoot some black and white film, some color film, 35 millimeter, some medium format Hasselblad 2 1/4 film. And I get in there and I shoot, I think 3 or 4 or 5 pictures. Like when I do a photo shoot with an artist, I might take 200, 500, 2,000 photos. I mean, I've done photo shoots with artists where I've shot for 15 minutes and shot 1,000 photos. And especially now in the digital world, but in the film world, a 15-minute shoot could easily be 10 rolls of film, if not more. And I shot, I think, 3 or 4 photographs, and Steve Power said, "Okay, you're done. Got to go." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I took 3 photos." They're like, "Come on, you got a minute." And so I literally went in there and just stepped on the motor drive, and I shot as fast as I could because your strobe light has to recycle fast enough. And I shot, and the whole time they were just sitting next to each other. So it was not like Hunter came in by himself and Garcia came in by himself. They were just sitting there, and I got Hunter's attention. I think I shot a half a roll of black and white of solo portraits of Hunter. I think I shot about a half a roll of black and white of solo Garcia portraits, and I shot about a half a roll of color of mostly the 2 of them together, 1 or 2 shots of Garcia by himself. No solo shots of Hunter in color. It was just moving too fast. And I don't even think I finished another roll, maybe shot half the roll, and they were like, "Okay, you're done." And the whole shoot was 3 minutes long. And I was just like, whoa, what the fuck? Because I was expecting something very different. Yeah. And, but I still ended up with, what is potentially, my most iconic photograph of Jerry Garcia. The one where he's sort of looking down over his glasses and looking at me, and also got some really beautiful portraits of just Hunter by himself that I'm really, really proud of. And most of the shots of the 2 of them together, they were pretty much ignoring me. I had to get their attention. I mean, at one point, I think Hunter growled at me with his hand, kind of being fun. But they were just like 2 old pals just sort of catching up over a cup of coffee. Yeah. And it was just amazing to see. And boom, they were out the door because, what I've now have learned, and it was even true then, this is exactly 35 years ago today. January 31st, 1991, right? Am I doing the math right? Today's 2026.
It sounds right to me. Yep, sounds good to
35 me. Years ago, which blows my mind. But, I wrote this in a post that I just did about Bobby a couple days ago, and on social media. Evergreen artists that have been around forever. Bob Weir has basically been in front of a camera since he is 16 or 17 years old, pretty regularly, right? And so, when you get a new band like Pigeons Playing Ping Pong or Goose or Dogs in a Pile, at the beginning of their careers, they're willing to stand in front of the camera and do what you say and hang out for hours. Because it's part of the machine that they need to do to market themselves and be in magazines and be online and things like that. And you get an evergreen artist that's been around for 30 years, which at that point, Bob Weir, Jerry Garcia, 25 years, they just want to go out and have lunch. They're like, Neil Young, Carlos Santana, all the members of the Grateful Dead that I've worked with were all the same. People that have been doing this since they're 17, 18, 19 years old, after they've done a photo shoot for 20, 25 years, they're done. Like, they just don't want to do it. So, my photo shoots with Neil Young, my portraits that I've done with him have almost always been under 10 minutes. Every one that I've done, and I've done probably 6 portrait sessions with Neil Young. I mean, I literally have a photograph of my very first portrait session of Neil Young, also in 1991, in October of 1991, a few days after Bill Graham died in the helicopter crash. And there's literally a portrait of Neil holding up his hand, pointing at his watch, saying, "We're done, right? We're done," and literally that was 5 minutes into the shoot. Because Neil also has been in front of the camera since 1965 or 6 with Buffalo Springfield. So, and even before that, when he was wasn't he in Rick James's band, or was that Hendrix? Am I forgetting that? Anyway, people that have been photographed for a long time just don't want to sit. So anyway, so I did the Garcia Hunter shoot. It was epic. I got the shot, and today is the 35th anniversary of that photo
Yeah,
shoot.
awesome.
Here we are.
That's a great story, and I'm sure you have tons of great stories like that. But I kind of want to know, like, how'd you even get there? Because I know there's a lot of work that goes into happening before that. And correct me if I'm wrong. The first Dead show that you photographed was 1978, right?
Correct. The Meadowlands, September 2nd, 1978, Giant Stadium. Big Giant Stadium show. I was 16 years old and starting my senior year of high school a couple days later. I was essentially going into my senior year of high school. My dad loaned me his camera. I brought it to a stadium and photographed pictures of the Grateful Dead.
Now, did you already... So, like, what came first for you? Was it, I really like the Grateful Dead, I want to start taking pictures, or I'm already taking pictures, now I found the Grateful Dead? Like, how did this kind of come about?
I mean, it's all kind of the same thing in the same time period. It was more like me having my camera. So, we were young kids in suburban New Jersey in the 1970s. And, what we did is we listened to rock and roll. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But we were 16 and nerdy, so there was definitely no sex going on. And but there was definitely some drugs. At that point, we were already smoking weed and getting very close. I think actually by 78, I'd already taken LSD for sure, because I think I did it in 77 for the first time. Let me think about this. Yeah, somewhere around there. So I was, 15 or 16 when I took LSD for the first time. I think 16. And I had my camera. And we were, if I went to a concert, 3 weeks after I shot that Grateful Dead concert, I saw Neil Young and Bob Dylan back-to-back at Madison Square Garden, September 28th and 29th, I think it was, 1978. I was still a senior in high school, just started my senior year, like I said, and brought my camera. And I think at the Neil Young concert, there's maybe 8 photographs that are in focus and exposed properly. And the Bob Dylan show, probably maybe the same, a few less, maybe 4 to 6 photos that are, out of a roll or two of film that are in focus and exposed properly. I just was trying to document what I was doing without saying, "Oh, I'm documenting my history." I was literally just photographing things that I like to do so I could print them in my darkroom in the basement of my mother's house and hang them on my bedroom wall with some thumbtacks or some, double stick tape. Because I just thought that was cool. I was making my own concert memorabilia. So I had no grand plan. I just carried a camera around with me when I felt like it. I wish I had it around me more. I wish I brought it everywhere I went. I wish I took more pictures of the 70s because, we were literally, living the dazed and confused lifestyle. Minus like the cars and with a little bit more alcohol and probably some more psychedelics than they were in the movie and whatnot. But anyway, that was our life. That was our lifestyle. We were just dumb kids.
Yeah.
And I was just a dumb kid with a camera.
And then when did you move out west?
Well, it's a complicated story. A little backstory. So, I started going on Dead Tour. I did my first I did my first mini road trip in 79. For my 18th birthday, I drove from where I lived in New Jersey to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which I think was about an 8-hour drive. Got to see the Grateful Dead on my 18th birthday, 12/1/79. A couple weeks later, I jumped on a Greyhound bus and I went to California for the first time on the West Coast, and went and saw the Grateful Dead New Year's shows that year. big eye-opening experience. By the spring of 1980, also in the summer of 79, I drove out to Red Rocks in my 1969 Chevy Nova with my buddy Kevin and a guy named Nick, and went and saw some Dead shows out in Colorado. Only Grateful Dead concert I ever got shut out of the first night of Red Rocks in 79, and then it rained and they moved it indoors. It was before Red Rocks had a roof. But anyway, so by the spring of 80, I was, really going on the road and traveling. And by the summer of 1980, I was seeing the Grateful Dead everywhere around the country. We saw the Grateful Dead in the summer of 1980 from Maine to Florida, Los Angeles, actually San Diego to Alaska, and everywhere in between. And that was an epic run. And I was funding that adventure by selling copious amounts of LSD to my friends back in New Jersey, my friends from high school. And, I wasn't selling them a hit here and a hit there. I was selling them 500 hits and 1,000 hits and 2,000 hits. And they were then, it was all part of the LSD distribution network of 1980. I met a guy at a Dead show in spring of 80 at the Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey, who asked me if he could send me a couple thousand hits of LSD and I could become part of his underground LSD distribution network. And so I thought that was the greatest offer I'd ever gotten, and immediately gave my parents' home address, and he started FedExing me, copious amounts of LSD to sell to my friends in New Jersey. That was 1980. That was 45 years ago.
Different time.
Different time. Statute of limitations is up. And anyway, so while I was out on tour in the summer, there was a big group of people that lived in Oregon and Washington that I knew from where I grew up in New Jersey. They were all a little bit older than me. I grew up in a town called Clark, New Jersey, and my dad lived in the next town over called Westfield, New Jersey. And I met some deadheads from Westfield. There was a guy named Ken Levy who worked in the bowling alley that was right in Clark, on the border of Clark and Westfield. And he said, yeah, we're all moving to Oregon and Washington. You should come and move out. And I became friends with them. And they could sort of see that I was going pretty deep into the tour land and psychedelics. And they were trying to encourage me to move out west and live with them. And I was sort of planning on that. But, one more, got to let that deal go down, right? Don't you let that deal go down. And I went down to the local overnight package facility to pick up a package that BT had sent me, and the Edison, New Jersey police were waiting for me, and walked out of the office with a package, and they threw me against the car, and just like in the movies, they said, "You're under arrest, motherfucker." And so my life changed. So I was stuck in New Jersey, and I went through the court system for a year and a half, out on bail, got a job, cut my hair.
So no jail though?
No, you haven't gotten there yet. Did all the horrible things that you have to do to appease the man. And then a year after or so, I got convicted of possession of a controlled dangerous substance with intent to distribute. And I appealed that. And while I was out on appeal, I moved to Washington State, where all my friends were living, and to get residency. And I applied to college there at the Evergreen State College. And because I was hoping that if I had to come before the judge in the event that I lost my appeal, I could say to them, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to become a productive citizen. And in 45 years, I'm going to be on Clint Dodson's podcast, all dabbed up. And the judge did not believe me. So after living in Olympia, Washington for from May of 1982 until the fall of 1982, October, when I lost my appeal, I lived in Olympia, did a West Coast thing, moved back to New Jersey in December, turned myself in and started a 5-year prison sentence in February of 1983. The 5-year prison sentence is a little bit misleading because the way that the prison system back then, I don't know if they still do it in New Jersey, they gave me what was called an indeterminate 5-year sentence. And that's the judge giving me that. And then the parole board looks at your previous criminal history, which luckily I did not have one, and your drug offense. And then they give you a time goal. And for me, they gave me a 12-month time goal of the indeterminate 5-year sentence. And out of 12 months, I could work off 3 months for good behavior and serve 9 months. And then I actually got out another 5 weeks early. We'll just call that due to white privilege. Some friends of mine from New Jersey that I grew up with, and deadhead friends of mine's parents had done political work with the president of the New Jersey State Parole Board. And I applied to college, and I got accepted, and school started September 23rd or 5th, to September 25th or 6th, 1983, the fall semester. And I think I was supposed to get out 5 weeks later, and they let me out, or 4 weeks later I was supposed to get out. They let me out 5 weeks early so I could fly to the West Coast in time to start the fall semester of college. And they let me out on like the 20th of September. And on the 23rd, I was in Olympia, and I think we had a big Jay Gets Out of Jail party and live music and, hippies having fun and doing what we do. And started the fall semester and have been a West Coast person ever since. That's the answer to your question. When did I move to the West Coast? September 1983 when I got out of prison full time, and I've been here ever since.
That's the answer I want, because if you would have just said in 1983, we would have missed out on a great story. That's the beauty of a podcast. Right?
So, okay, I'm glad you thought it was a good story. It's the truth. But yeah, so that's just sort of how things happen, life is not black and white, and the best laid plans don't always work as you want. But I moved to Olympia, Washington, and went back to school, and then I moved to the Bay Area part-time in 85 and full-time in 86.
Yeah, so I read that in 86 you became the house photographer at the I-Beam on Haight Street.
Correct.
And that was kind of like the early days of this like alternative rock movement. Being someone that's been like, traveling with the Grateful Dead in this hippie counterculture movement, how much different was the alternative rock movement at that time compared to what you had previously experienced?
Good question, and vastly different for a number of reasons. Nowadays, music fans have really big ears. You can have somebody that's listening to Dogs in a Pile, The Grateful Dead, Sound Tribe, and Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa and Journey and the Beatles and
Taylor
Rush,
Swift.
And Taylor Swift, right? But that's internet streaming and music being more available and just people being more wide open. When I was, in the core Deadhead days, like if you were Deadhead, you listened to a lot of Grateful Dead, you listened to a lot of Allman Brothers, you probably listened to a lot of Little Feat, and then out from there went the Airplane, Santana, Hot Tuna, the Band. Out from there went Clapton and Cream and Hendrix and like music that's
but all
sort of
kind of in the same like neighborhood.
Yeah, like all sort of, there's clearly nothing like the Grateful Dead or the Allman Brothers, truly the innovators of improvisational, never play it the same way twice kind of music, which of course has spawned an entire genre from that original tree with all of those branches that, again, to name the bands, Dogs in a Pile, Eggy, Moe, Humphreys, Widespread, String Cheese, Fish, version 2.0, version 3.0. I don't know. Are we in version 4.0 with Eggy and Dogs and people like that? I don't know where we are, but I love them all. Even people like Andy Frasco has that tinge of, psychedelic weirdness and wildness. Maybe not a direct route to the Grateful Dead, but a direct route to that vibe and that scene.
Still attached to it for sure.
So I remember like I'd be at a Butthole Surfers show at the I-Beam. And so the I-Beam was this club on Haight Street, no longer there. They knocked it down, built condos many years ago. And they only had live music on Monday nights, right? And during the weekend, it was a male gay dance nightclub. And a woman named Kathy Cohn was the booking agent at the I-Beam. And I just went up to her one day and I was like, hey, I would love to just be your house photographer and take pictures. I don't even know if we called it a house photographer. Nowadays, every venue has a house photographer because of the internet and social media and the need for that kind of stuff. And she's like, I don't even understand what you're asking me. I'm like, I just want to come and take pictures. You let me in for free. I'll give you a couple of 8x10 black and white prints that you can just throw in a drawer and save for when you're old and you can look at them and remember the I-beam. And that's sort of how it started. But my motivations were to learn how to become a photographer and shoot a live concert. In the 80s, in a club like the I-beam, there was very little stage lighting. You almost always had to use a flash on your camera, which we would never really do today in a small dark room. But in the 80s, it was a look, it was a style, it was accepted. So you're shooting the Butthole Surfers, or you're shooting the Meat Puppets, or Soundgarden, or Jane's Addiction. I mean, these are all bands, the Sugar Cubes, the Pixies. These are all bands that I shot at the I-beam. And Faith No More, Chris Isaac, bands that don't even exist anymore. One-hit wonders like the Godfathers had a great song called Birth, School, Work, Death. All these great bands. And it was okay to use a flash because it's just, Soul Asylum played there. Because it was just, but I was just trying to learn how to expose film and work in that environment. And then I started doing portraits of these bands backstage, and it started with me literally with a flash on my camera, and then it moved to like flash off camera, studio lighting. So I was learning how to become a photographer during that period. And it really was only like end of 86, 87, 88, into a little bit of 89 that I did it at the I-beam. And it was Monday nights, and I probably only shot, I bet you I shot 40 concerts there, 50, at the most, something like that. It's not like I was always there. And there were a lot of bands that I look back at the posters and the ads for who played them, like, fuck, why didn't I go to that? Like, I was very, very much still a deadhead. But there were a couple things going on. And one thing is that I was trying to make a living as a photographer, right? Because I didn't know what else to fucking do. Two, the mainstream magazines really didn't care about the Grateful Dead or the other bands of the 60s at the time. And there was, and all these people, John Cipollina from Quicksilver and all those guys that, Peter Albin and Sam Andrew from Big Brother and the Holding Company, they were all playing these small bars all over the place. We could go see 60s type music with the original players in these bars all the time. But magazines were not interested in any of those people, and barely interested in the Grateful Dead until 87, Touch of Grey. And that was just a little blip on the radar also. They were interested in these new bands, Soundgarden, the Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, the Flaming Lips, right? And so if I was going to get published in magazines or newspapers or work for record companies, those are the bands that you needed to shoot. And so those are the bands that I tapped into and learned what I could from listening to radio and reading other magazines and talking to friends. And so I would go, I can remember being at a Butthole Surfers concert and telling this person next to me that next week or whatever, next month, I was going to go shoot 3 shows of the Grateful Dead down at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, and they'd just be like, what? I have friends that were big Deadheads and big Butthole Surfers heads, because the Butthole Surfers were super psychedelic, right? And one of the funnest bands ever to photograph. But it was sort of like, oil and water. It just didn't really mix, right? The scenes didn't vibe. And there was like this real stigmatism. Like if you were a punk rocker, you couldn't like the Grateful Dead. There's a renowned punk rock band called NoFX that I've done a lot of work with, and they were very much, sort of anti-hippie, anti-Grateful Dead, but for no reason, it was just sort of like it was sort of in the ethos and it was like a vibe, like you couldn't be both. You couldn't be into the Dead Kennedys and the Grateful Dead, or you couldn't be into the Ramones. If you could listen to the Ramones for the first time today or in 1976, you might be like, wow, this is dangerous. And this is different than, let's see. So in a peak Ramones moment, we'll call it 1975, they're playing, minute 30-second, really fast, aggressive rock and roll songs. To my ears today, that stuff is like pop. It's not even like hardcore punk or anything like that, right? And then the Grateful Dead are putting out Blues for Allah with Help Slip Franklin's the same year. It couldn't be more different of a culture. And so we didn't, again, the magazines didn't really overlap, and the radio stations didn't overlap, and the scenes didn't overlap. And now, they very much do. Like I went to a punk rock movie last night, a documentary film, and I saw, there was a guy from Flipper, a guy from the Dead Kennedys there, Chuck Prophet was there, and Chuck is sort of, his roots are in the punk world, but I think of him as a psychedelic guitar player as much as anything else. So like Lair Lalonde from Primus, big Deadhead, saw the Grateful Dead almost 100 times. Used to run into him at Dead shows. I was already shooting Primus and working with those guys and shooting album covers and publicity shoots and all the things. And Lair and I never talked about it in that moment. Like it was just two different worlds. I don't even know if Les knew that Lair was like that heavily into Jerry Garcia back then, right? And then all of a sudden Les is jamming with Bob Weir at the Fillmore, and at festivals Bobby's sitting in with Les and whatnot. So it's a merged world now, and everybody has bigger ears, and everybody's more accepting. Mm-hmm. And it even goes to the point where there are people that complain, oh, you've never saw the Grateful Dead with Jerry, you're not a real Deadhead, you started seeing them with Dead & Co. or Further or Rat Dog. I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, I don't care if you started listening to that band 3 weeks ago. If you love that music, you can call yourself a Deadhead. Everybody is welcome. It's all inclusive, and that's what it always should have been. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And the Dead scene itself was inclusive. The Grateful Dead scene, everybody was welcome because we were all freaks and fucking weirdos and misfits, right? Bob Weir, famous quote, we are misfits playing for misfits. But this, the punk scene or the new wave scene or the alt rock scene, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Flaming Lips, etc., alt rock. Like that didn't necessarily merge at the very beginning. But I mean, look at music fans today. I guarantee people have, Jane's Addiction's first couple records on their music playlist, just like they have the Grateful Dead or Fish. Mm-hmm. And it's all fucking badass.
Yeah, 100%. Where do you think, you said like the Grateful Dead wasn't exclusive, but you mentioned these people that say like if you didn't see Jerry, it doesn't count. Where do you think that came from?
Ignorance. I mean, it's just, who cares? If you're a brand new Fish fan and you're tapping into Fish 3.0 or wherever we are with them, and you like it and you love it and you go deep into it, welcome. Welcome. Mm. We welcome you all. Everybody should be welcome to listen and be part of whatever scene they want to be. We are still, certainly in the jam band world, and, we're still taking psychedelics. We're still microdosing. We are inclusive. We, welcome. Come and join our scene. We need more people that, whatever. We could be stereotyped into bourgeois hippies eating organic granola, but we care about people. We care about the planet, and I think that other alternative subcultures do as well. Maybe the punk rockers weren't thinking about that in 1976, but I bet you they're thinking about it now. Like, a punk band on tour, I bet you they're doing compost bags in the garbage backstage, right? We're thinking about this stuff now because it's real. And so anybody that's tapped into any kind of music culture that's not like the mainstream, right? The Taylor Swift or, whatever, I don't even know, the stadium acts and the big arena acts, anybody who's got a brain and a conscience, you're probably a good person overall, and you want to believe in fellow humankind, and you want to be welcoming. So why are you saying to somebody you're not a Deadhead if you just started listening to this band a year ago?
Yeah.
Who cares? If you love the music, who cares? You're a fish head, you're a goose head, you're whatever you are. If you love the music, that's who you are. It's fine. There's no prejudice. There shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we do a commercial? Commercial? I want to do a couple commercials here. So, okay, I have 3 speaking gigs coming up, right? Where I go and do my Grateful Dead slideshow storytelling presentation. The first one is on March 12th. It's a Thursday night. It's in St. Louis, Missouri, and it's at the Four Doors Brewery, I think it's called. Just look it up. It'll be on my social media probably starting next week, March 12th. The next night, But March 13th is Melvin Seals at the pageant in St. Louis, and I'm going to be the MC. And both of these events are brought to you by Proper Cannabis, which is a great cannabis company in St. Louis. They're bringing me in. They're creating this big party with Melvin. It's their show, and I'm happy to be part of it. So shout out to Proper Cannabis in St. Louis. On March 26th, I'm going to be at the Ecology Center in San Juan Capistrano, which is just a groovy place. I went down there for one of their dead nights a couple months ago. Met the folks that are putting all that music on down there. They've really created a great scene. They have a geodesic dome, and we are going to do my Grateful Dead slideshow storytelling presentation there on Thursday, March 26th. Please come down, say hi, check it out. Tickets will go on sale, I think, in the next couple, but probably by the time you hear this, they should be on sale. And then the next night, March 27th, I'm going to be in Carpinteria, which is just south of Santa Barbara, at the Alcazar Theater, Friday, March 27th, doing my Grateful Dead slideshow. And then I've got some pop-up stuff happening on the East Coast at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester and Garcia's. I'll have my gallery set up there. I won't be doing a slideshow, but we'll be at Humphreys McGee in February. We'll be at Dogs in a Pile in February. We'll be at Sound Tribe Sector 9. We'll be at Melvin Seals at the end of February. The Warren Haynes Band, Jesse Wells. So we got some stuff at Garcia. So come visit the folks that are setting up in Garcia's. I'll be there in March for the last two Graham Les shows as well. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So we spoke about like 1986 being at the I-Beam and kind of just like how that evolved. And then 1987, you got your first Rolling Stone gig, right?
11/11/1987. I photographed U2 doing a free concert in downtown San Francisco. So we had started hearing some rumors that U2 was going to do a free concert in San Francisco. They were filming for the documentary film Rattle and Hum. And I had started sending photographs to Rolling Stone about 6 months earlier. We had a friend of mine, a Deadhead friend of mine, went to high school with the then new photo editor at Rolling Stone. My friend's name was Robin. The photo editor was Jody. And I started sending her stuff. And then on 11/11/87, we heard the announcement on the radio that they were going to be doing this free concert. I was getting ready to walk out the door and just jump on BART and go shoot it for myself however I could. And the phone rang. This is pre-cell phone, pre-pager. This is just landline. And I picked up the phone, and the woman said, "Hey, Jay, it's Jody Peckman from Rolling Stone magazine. I have your big break. I need you to go shoot the free U2 concert in downtown San Francisco." And I got to tell that story to Bono and The Edge a couple months back. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Bono and The Edge and U2 were getting the Woody Guthrie Prize, which is an annual award given by the Woody Guthrie Center and the Woody Guthrie family. And so Bono and The Edge were there, and I was in the dressing room with them. They were autographing some guitars to auction to raise money for the Woody Guthrie Center. And I said, "Hey," after they signed him and I took my pictures, I said, "Do you guys have a minute for a story?" And they were like, "Yeah." And like, in 87, you guys did this free concert in downtown San Francisco. And I just, it was being filmed for Rattle and Hum. And I just want you to know that I'm also in the movie. There's a shot from behind, and you can see me in between Bono's legs. They're sort of spread apart. He's singing. I said, "I'm the guy down front with the Nikon camera and the mullet." And I go, I said, "It was the 80s, Bono. You had a mullet, so I had a mullet." And he looked at me and goes, "Jay, I'm really sorry. I apologize for creating that situation for me." So Bono apologized to me for me having a mullet because of him. So that was a good apology, but I got to tell the story. And then I said to him, that was my very, very first assignment for Rolling Stone magazine. And then I went on to do like 300 assignments for Rolling Stone over the next 30 years.
Yeah, and there was I was looking that up, and there was some all different kinds of people. Obviously the Grateful Dead, Primus, NoFX, Third Eye Blind, Blues Traveler, B.B. King, Nirvana. Any of these people that you got to work with, like, kind of surprised you? Like, I didn't expect them to be like that.
I mean, I'm a big fan of all these artists that I'm working with. Mm-hmm. So I just feel very lucky that I got to witness a lot of this history. So, there's a lot of photographers that only shoot live concerts. There's a lot of photographers that only do formal posed portraits. There's a lot of photographers that only do, backstage paparazzi. And for me, I sort of liked doing all of the things. I liked being in a dressing room with a band, being a fly on the wall. I liked doing the formal portraits where I'm in complete creative control, right? I can tell them where to sit, how to stand, what kind of lighting I want to use, what kind of camera I want to use, what kind of lens I want to use, what kind of film I want to use, as opposed to when you're shooting a live concert and you're at the mercy of, in the old days when there were no photo pits and you're crushed against the stage at a Soundgarden show. And if you're in front of them, and you get there early and you're in your spot, and then all of a sudden they put the bass player's microphone right in front of you and you're blocked, now you're navigating a microphone stand, bad lighting, people crushing you against the stage, right? And so, when I was first shooting, that's the opportunity that you have. You go shoot live rock and roll concerts where you can just bring your camera in without a press pass, right? Nobody's giving you a press pass. You're just literally, bringing your camera into a concert because they allow you, because it's a small concert. Of course, that's all changed now, in the world that we live in. But for me, doing live concert stuff was really super fun, and is still super fun for me, which is why I still do it. But at the same time, creatively, it had its limitations because you were at the mercy of like I said, the lighting, where people are standing on stage. And so creatively, I wanted to start doing more stuff on my own where I was in control of the creative, which is why I started doing portraits.
Okay.
And so, and the other reason for doing portraits also is that, back in the old days, do you know what a magazine is? You're kind of young. A magazine, it's got paper.
I do.
Ink on it. Next time you're in an airport, you could probably see one of these artifacts, right?
Shouts out Train Songs, bringing back print media.
There you go. Print media. And so if you look at a music magazine from the 90s, what was on the cover 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times was a portrait. A portrait, not a live concert photo. It was a posed portrait, right? And so what's on the cover of an album? A portrait, right? So I was getting published in Rolling Stone and Guitar Player and Relics and all these, different magazines. And if they ran like a little quarter-page photo, you got $100, you got $50, you got $200, depending on what the magazine was. You weren't getting rich. It was hard to make a living. But if you shot a magazine cover, you might be getting $1,500 or $2,000. Or if you're shooting an album cover, you might be getting $5,000, right? And so I taught myself how to do portraiture because I wanted to have a better outlet creatively, but also I wanted to make a living. I didn't want to have to go back and live in my parents' basement when I was 32 and be a struggling artist. So I taught myself skills, technical skills that translated into the creative skills that I hopefully had innately and morphed them and molded them and turned them into me and the kind of photographs that I capture. So, it was I don't even remember what the question was, but that was a transition from being just a live shooter to a portrait shooter, and then back to and then basically always just doing both because I love the energy. Like there was nothing more exciting than being on stage with an artist or in front of the stage or being in a mosh pit with an artist. I mean, there's literally nothing that is more exciting than that.
Yeah, and I think the flow, this has kind of worked out perfectly now. We talked about the portraits with Jerry Garcia and then kind of everything that led up to you becoming this portrait photographer. And here we are now, and I want to know, in this whole time when you were working with the Grateful Dead, what did your relationship with the band feel like? Did you feel like kind of part of the group or just like a fly on the wall?
Well, when I was photographing the Grateful Dead, with Jerry, I was an outsider that was just sort of starting to get an inside view because of a couple of things that happened. One, Bob Weir hired me in July 1990 to do a portrait of him and Rob Wasserman because he was starting a new solo project, an acoustic duo called Weir Wasserman, which eventually added Jay Lane and eventually became Rat Dog. And I was working with Rob Wasserman on on an album he was making and doing photos for that. So Rob's people introduced me to Bob's people, and I got hired. And then Bob wrote a children's book with his sister, needed an author portrait, and Bob hired me to do that. And then Bob did a second children's book, and I did that again. And then, there were different magazines that were doing stories with Bob, and it just made sense for me to be the photographer. Did some portraits up in Marin at his house, and I did a story for a bicycling magazine, and he'd come and hang out at Sweetwater, the original Sweetwater, and so there was just I was just around a lot. So Bob was comfortable with me, and knew who he was. I mean, this is pre-cell phone, so it's not like I was texting Bobby. And then fast forward to post Jerry. They do the other ones. They do the Dead. They do Further. They do Wolf Brothers. They do Dead and Company. And I'm the guy that's getting the call to document all of this, to do the official portraits or the on stage or backstage or whatever it is. And so my relationship with the band is as friend and foe, right? Because we're a photographer, we want something from them, and like I said, all of these guys, evergreen artists that have been doing this for a long time, they're over it. So, when I'm working, Mickey might joke around with me, but Mickey knows that I'm working, and I know that he's working, and our jobs are to work together, right? So we might hang out after the show, and out of all the band members in the Grateful Dead, Mickey Hart is the only one that has ever cared about photography. He genuinely appreciates being documented. And I think that's great, it's not uncommon for other artists as well that are just I get it. It's a necessary evil of our business that I need to be photographed. And nowadays, because of social media and all the the need for a constant flow of imagery, there's even more of a need to document, and so we're in their faces even more. And so I do my thing, they do their thing, and sometimes when we're waiting, we chat and catch up, like with Bobby. I've been mentoring his daughter Chloe, so we've had some conversations about that over the years. When we were at the Sphere, at Sphere, not the Sphere, when we were at Sphere in year one, 2024, Bob and his family came over to the gallery where we were exhibiting stuff of my work and Chloe's work, and I got to give Bob a tour of this Grateful Dead exhibit, and I got to show him this photograph that I had discovered a couple years ago that had never been seen of him behind bars when the Grateful Dead got arrested in October of 1967. It's from an archive that my daughter and I own. We have a business called Retro Photo Archive, and we own and manage a whole bunch of archival photography collections. And Bob was like, wow, here's a photograph that I've never seen. Where did you find that? And I told him the story. So my relationship, and Bob and I texted every once in a while. I would text him and, wish him a happy birthday or, ask him something. But for the most part, I left him alone because it was a working friendship, and it needed to sort of stay that way, right? Because it would be, if I would call him up and be like, hey, want to go out to dinner? Then I bring my camera. Do you know what I mean? And it changes the dynamic, right? Because
it's
I
like
want
me calling you when I get dinner and I bring my microphones.
I want to, I want to picture Bobby, pumping gas or well, he had an electric car, so maybe not, but pumping gas or eating a burrito. But so, I understood that there was this friendship, but there was, and this relationship and this give and take. And a lot of it was unspoken because it had to be. But when I needed him to do something, when we were working together, and then when there was the in-between moments when we might be waiting or something that I could, that we would connect. I told a little story about in my post that I did last week where, Bobby, at one of the last photo shoots I did with him, he said to me, he's like, Jay, don't you have enough photos of me already? And I was like, Bob, haven't you played me and my uncle enough already? And he got a good laugh out of that. Like Bobby had a good sense of humor, and he could really, he could really get it. And so, um, there, the movie Almost Famous, which is written and directed by Cameron Crowe, which I'm actually reading his autobiography right now, which is fabulous. I highly recommend it. Um, they had this thing that came from the days of Cream magazine and Lester Bangs. And one of my early mentors was a woman who worked at Cream magazine, a woman named Jan Uelski. And Jan would always say, rock stars are not your friends, right? Which is what Lester Bangs used to tell people. Lester Bangs told Cameron Crowe, and that plays out, if you've never seen that movie, that plays out in the story. Like the journalist can't be trusted. Don't trust that guy. Don't trust that photographer. And that was like, in the days of film, even like I remember artists not wanting to be photographed. And now they wish they had those photographs from '96 that they told me not to take, because now that it's gone, there's no record of it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's a weird, we're in a weird place now where there's so much need for so much imagery, and we have a camera with us. Even if we don't have our professional camera, we have our phones with powerful cameras in them. And so you gotta figure out your place in the script. And I like to think that quote unquote rock stars are my friends, because I want to be comfortable with these people if I'm still working with them. And I don't want to cross any lines, but I want to be able to call them up and joke around with them and have a conversation about our kids, or, where are you going on vacation, or, Bobby's passing, or whatever it might be. It's a different world than like, it's just there's still that working friendship. It's a different type of friendship. It's hard to explain unless you're in it. But I love when Mickey calls me. It's like, hey man, I saw I got a message from him yesterday that was like, I saw your post on Bobby. Can you send me these photos? I want them for something I'm working on. And I'm like, of course, I like that Mickey is actively engaged in the history of his band and what he's done. And that to me is important and validates what we do. Even if other people in other bands, when they've been doing this for 30 or 40 years, don't care so much about it, we do. Like even Mike Gordon from Phish, after Phil passed away, I sent him a big print of him and Phil backstage at Terrapin Crossroads. And in the moment, when Phil is still alive, Mike's not really thinking about it because Phil's going to live forever. Bob's going to live forever, right? But then he saw that photo and he's like, oh yeah, I need a print of that, and he texted me, can you send me a print? Of course, of course. Like, you were in the photo. You were generous, to be in that photograph for me. And it's a moment in history that's now forever frozen on a digital file with a bunch of pixels or a piece of film or whatever it might be. So I think that as artists get older, maybe they want to revisit some of their history, and maybe they secretly enjoy it but don't say it out loud. But maybe they just don't care. I just don't know.
Okay. And then to kind of wrap this thing up, and I want to know, like, as someone who, you came into the Grateful Dead world as a fan, going to all these shows, started taking pictures, it became your career. And then, like you said, you kind of had friendships with some of these guys. And now you're honoring them with your slideshows, which I do want to learn a little bit about before we finish. But with all that being said, like, you see Bobby passing away not too long ago, Phil Lesh passing away the last year and a half. What happens to keep this Grateful Dead culture going on?
Well, I mean, even Bobby talked about this before he passed, the 300-year thing, and all the people that eulogized him, brought it up, John Mayer, etc. Bob has always talked about that. That was he told me one of the reasons why he was doing this symphony thing was to reinvent that music so that maybe that would help keep this music alive in a different way than most people expect it, a rock and roll band, for hundreds of years. The legacy is in the hands of all the musicians that appreciate that music, I mean, obviously, we still have Mickey and Billy. Hopefully, they will continue to play music. But, we are all one step closer to not being able to play music or document music or see music or hear music, whatever it might be, every day. And so the legacy lives on. I mean, listen, there's more Grateful Dead tribute bands out there than any other rock band out there. This community is strong. The community knows how to gather, loves to gather, will continue to gather. But there's also the history. There will be museums. There will be exhibitions of art and ephemera and photographs. I'm working on an exhibition for New York City for the next summer at a gallery, a Grateful Dead exhibit. There will be books. There will be podcasts. There will be storytelling. There will be memories. I think that this legacy is so strong and so rich in history, culture, music, songs. The songbook is where it all starts, and that's where it will continue. There will be a lot of different people, both musicians and historians like myself and David Gans and Blair Jackson and Gary Lambert and Dennis McNally, that will continue to share the knowledge that we've all accumulated and documented about this band beyond description and keep the spirit alive. And I think there's going to be a lot of it. So, come to my Grateful Dead slideshow. It's
drop the dates for that again, and then tell us kind of what we can expect there too.
I am going to be doing a series of speaking gigs, and I do a Grateful Dead slideshow called Between the Dark and Light, the Grateful Dead photography of Jay Blakesberg. It's between 75 and 90 minutes. It's fully improv. I mean, I have my photos chosen and whatnot, but how I tell the stories, it's the same story. But sometimes I might tell it in 1 minute, and sometimes I might tell it in 10 minutes. So it changes night to night. And the first one that I'm going to do is on March 12th in St. Louis at the Four Hands Brewery. And tickets are either on sale already or about to go on sale. We'll put some links out there, but just look up Four Hands Brewery, March 12th, Jay Blakesberg. And the next night is at the Pageant in St. Louis, which is a concert venue, and Melvin Seals and JGB are going to play there. I will be the MC of that. And both of those events are all surrounding Proper Cannabis, which is a cannabis company in St. Louis that is bringing me in to do the slideshow and bringing Melvin in to celebrate the culture of the Grateful Dead around cannabis. And full disclosure, I do not smoke marijuana, but that's okay. Everybody should freak freely. The next slideshow that I'm going to do is on March 26th in San Juan Capistrano at the Ecology Center. And the Ecology Center is this groovy organic farm south of LA, north of San Diego, that has a geodesic dome, and we're going to do my slideshow storytelling presentation inside the dome. And it's just a groovy scene. They've got great live music that they do there, and I'm going to do it on a Thursday night, so I think it's going to just be me and no music. But they're doing great stuff. Definitely keep your eyes open on the Ecology Center, because they're doing really, really cool Grateful Dead themed events that are outdoors, beautiful weather, beautiful scene, beautiful people. The next night, I'm going to be in Carpinteria, California, which is 7 miles south of Santa Barbara. So Santa Barbara, Ventura, Carpinteria people can come to that. And that's on Friday, March 27th at the Alcazar Theater. And I think tickets are on sale any minute now for that. And come and see me at those 3 venues, March 12th, March 26th, March 27th, for my Grateful Dead slideshow. Additionally, I've got some pop-up galleries happening in Garcia's at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York, where we're going to be showing a gallery of my photographs, and we'll have other books and things there. I'll be at the ones at the Unbroken Chain benefits with Graham Lesh in March. Right after I leave St. Louis, I'm going to go to New York, and I'll be at those 2. But we will also be at Humphreys McGee at the Cap, February 7th. Dogs in a Pile, February 14th. Sound Tribe Sector 9, Feb 20th. Melvin Seals and JGB, Feb 26, 27. Warren Haynes Band, Jesse Wells. So we're set up in Garcia's. It's a cool photography exhibit. Just come look at photos, because there's fun stuff there that you'll probably like.
Hell yeah.
So that's what's coming up for me.
Awesome. Well, Jay, man, this has been a blast. I'm glad we were able to set it all up. Is there anything else that you want to plug before we wrap up here?
Let's just keep the spirit alive of Bobby and Phil and Donna Jean and Jerry, and let's just keep that spirit alive, keep that music alive, and let the community and the greater world know how lucky we all are that we tapped into that psychedelic zeitgeist known as the Grateful Dead, and that will never end for any of us. We are all in, all the way. You can't quit the mob.
Amen to that, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Clint. Appreciate it.
You just got jammed.
We're back.
Chloe's stealing my job today.
Back from that interview with Sir Jay. Incredible. Super fun.
That guy can tell some stories.
I love it when they can. I love it when you give them a layup and they punt it.
And they score all 3 points.
And they do a free throw.
Speaking of scoring 3 points, it's the Super Bowl this weekend. What's your prediction?
I want the Seahawks to win.
Yep. I think the Seahawks are going to win. I think the Seahawks might win pretty easily.
Who do you think's favored? Oh, are the Seahawks favored?
Yeah, the Seahawks are, I think, 4-point favorites right now. I think the, Clint's bet of the week, Jackson Smith and Jigba, anytime touchdown score, parlayed with Seahawks -4.
Seahawks -4.
Probably not that good odds on that because those are probably two of the most favored things to happen. But
so if you put $10 on it, you might win 25 cents.
No, you might win like $25.
Oh, there you go. If that's,
it's not as bad as 25 cents.
it's not as bad. It definitely isn't. I've never seen a cent win on a bet. So
sometimes they have them if you do like big parlays.
really big parlays,
Like if you
cents?
you can. Oh, you don't win cents, but you can like bet cents to win real money. I did like a 17-cent parlay one time for $91.
Yeah.
And like everything hit but one thing.
Oh, that's
Beep,
always
beep,
how
beep.
it goes.
That's how it goes.
Parlays suck for that reason.
But when they hit, they're good.
But when they good, they good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals -3. Put the house on it. Put the house on it.
We teased Billy for next week's, and I do just want to say one more thing about Billy before we do a whole preview on Monday. Billy Strings, February 14th, the last day of the Billy run. French Broad Brewing, Records on the Wall, and myself are putting on it's going to be an awesome party at the French Broad Brewing. Shed Bugs, Clouds of Delusion, and Jacuzzi. We're going to have beers, we're going to have vendors, we're going to have great music. Tickets are pretty cheap, and then we're all just going to head straight to the show after that. Mm-hmm. So the 14th, book your calendars, come hang out. There'll be, like I said, beers, all that good stuff. I'll be handing out stickers. So come hang out, come say what's up. French Broad Brewing, February 14th. Be there.
Or be square.
And Chloe said it.
And you don't want to be square.
No, because if you're square, it means you're not around.
Ah.
Didn't know that, did you?
Well, interesting. Is that why they say that?
I think so.
Interesting. I've never thought of the reasoning behind sayings before.
Yeah, I think either have I.
Why do you think cat got your tongue?
Beats me.
Me too.
Why do you say beats me?
Because it just pummels you to a pulp.
We'll never know. If you know the answer to these.
My grandpa has like a thing where he just knows the origin of like every saying. I don't fact check him. He says everything pretty seriously, and I take that for word, you know?
Yeah, I don't blame you. Grandpas always seem to have the right answers.
Mm-hmm. He's also a magician, though, so maybe he could be sneaky.
I wish I was a magician. Now I've learned juggling. Maybe I'll do magic next.
My favorite trick that he has, he likes card tricks, and he's got this like wooden duck, and he's got this whole act where like he's petting the duck, and it keeps trying to get the card, blah, blah, blah. You pick a card before. Mm-hmm. And then he keeps trying to get the card, and he's like, no. And then all of a sudden he gets your card, the duck.
This is the grandpa I'm going to meet in April?
No, this is Pa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my grandpa in Florida. My grandpa that you're going to meet in
May. Not April.
I love Granddad. He's my best friend. When I was supposed to get My other best friend.
I'm just kidding.
My long-term best friend.
What am I? Short-term best friend?
No, he's been here longer than you have. On Earth, even.
That's true.
When I was supposed to get deported, back when I was about to turn 21, he said that I could move into he's got like a loft above his garage. He was like, you can live in the loft. He had set up with a pub for me to get a job. He had a car that I could have driven. He was like ready for me to move in. He was all excited about it. And then I got my green card.
Thank God.
Thank goodness. I could have been pretty sick in a pub.
Yeah. Until someone was drunk and mean to you, you wouldn't handle that well, I don't
It'd be
think.
pretty sad. Yeah.
And I bet that happens.
I bet it does happen. I would hope not in he's in a pretty small town. I would hope not in his town.
You never know.
You don't. And I'll never find out because I'm here to stay.
This is a podcast about live music.
Yes,
and
I guess not my granddad's.
No. I wasn't saying for that. The people love a good story, I think.
I told 6 and 1.
But this is a podcast about live music, and other than one show, we haven't seen any live music this year.
Yeah,
because
it's been...
We were going to see Candle Street 2 weeks ago, canceled. We were going to see the Wood Brothers last week, canceled. But this week we have... So we're recording this on Tuesday because Wednesday night we're going to Taper's Choice, which is a relatively new band to the both of us, but we bought tickets today. We're going to go see them. And then Saturday's 65 North Pickers at One Stop Asheville. So if you're in Asheville, Saturday night, 65 North Pickers. So we'll finally get 2 shows, and then we get a whole week of Billy shows.
We get a whole week of Billy, which means we get a whole week of pre and post parties. We get a whole week of showing up to random places and finding music. I am so excited. This is a better holiday than Christmas.
And the weather looks nice.
The weather is supposed to be in the 50s.
So I saw 60 one day.
Oh, man, what are we going to do with all this?
Have fun. Have a blast.
We really are. Last year when he came to town, I remember I was like in my Carhartt all bundled up. So I'm excited for maybe a more temperate.
And then after Billy, the music keeps on coming. We got Railroad Earth.
We have in our calendar Leftover Salmon in Greenville.
With Stickley. And then we also have Jed Harrelson.
Yes. And side note, speaking of Jed Harrelson, the fucking boys of
Yesterday's Close.
Opening for Jed. That is such a fun combo. I'm so excited for the Yesterday's Close boys. They're so fun. I think that's going to be such a good show, and I wish it would. Where is it, in like Charlotte?
I think so. It's the same place we saw him last year.
Nice. That's a cool venue. Oh, he had kind of like a...
He did the same thing last year. Yeah, it was like another
sad
local
boy
band.
Emo band open up for them last time too.
He did, yeah. And they were also from Charlotte, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe they were a local band at the time, but Clint's typing in Strictly Liquid now. It is a shame that their show did get canceled the other day also, their album release show.
But the album's out.
Well, we've been listening through this album. He is very right, very space themed, super like kind of melodic and very I was expecting it to be a bit like
heavy,
and it's very nice. I like this album a lot. It's got a really cool sound to it.
Which brings us to the final point of the week. Songs of the week.
Oh, I want to talk about one more thing.
Okay.
I just want to shout out the Turnstile fellas.
Yeah.
First, I think they got 2 Grammys. Grammys?
Yeah, it was Grammys,
Oscars?
I think. Grammys.
I don't watch them. I just see the Instagram posts come up. But I think that's well-deserved and very
What were they?
exciting
Do you
for them.
know?
It was Best
rock
Metal Performance and then
That's kind of a
and then
stretch.
Best Rock Album. Which I fuck with the Best Rock Album.
Metal
Performance. I was like, what does that
rock
really
album,
mean?
rock performance, alternative music performance.
They won all of those? I thought they just won 2.
It looks like I want to know more about
these are in...
This is this year, 2026. This is 2023.
Oh, I wonder if it's like nominations versus wins.
Yeah, metal performance is an interesting way to... So it's been Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne. Let's go to more recently. Who's it's been?
Tenacious D. Go up. Is that right? Megadeth. Yeah, Tenacious D. Won it in 2015. All right, boys. Honestly, I was talking to someone about this the other day. I and I might get hate for this because this is me being kind of dumb again. I don't think Jack Black gets the credit he deserves. I think he's a very funny, nice man.
I believe that he's funny. I'm so intrigued by because looking at all these other bands,
Mastodon, Pantera,
August
Rob
Burns
Zombie,
Red, Rage Against the Machines,
Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Killswitch Engage, Iron Maiden.
and then you have Turnstile, which
Rammstein. Yeah, so
Turnstiles or metal's a stretch for me, but I do like Turnstile a lot. Not sure if I would put them in metal.
I think I agree with maybe not putting them in metal.
Never enough. That's not metal to me.
Well, not all of them have to be so heavy, you know? I mean, I guess they kind of do. I'm like thinking of the metal bands that I like.
And all the ones that they named there, like, like classic metal.
They did give postmortem shout outs, and they gave one to Bob Weir. I saw that.
What about Ozzy Osbourne?
They gave one to Ozzy Osbourne. They had like a whole dedication to Ozzy Osbourne.
As they should.
Yeah, they had that one man do it again, Baby Ozzy, you know?
Yeah, Baby Ozzy. I'm big Grateful Dead, big Bob Weir fan. Ozzy Osbourne, way bigger than Bob Weir.
Yeah, but they were both. They did like a slideshow for Bob Weir. They had a whole performance for Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, that makes sense. That checks out.
Poor Sharon looked lost. It's really sad. It's really sad.
She's got to be
see.
pretty old. Well, I guess, how old is she?
I don't know. She couldn't put a smile on her face.
Poor lady.
I know. It was really upsetting. I mean,
she doesn't look 73.
73. Honestly, good on you, Sharon.
But they were probably on the booze.
I feel so bad for that woman. He put her through the ringer. Through
Sharon.
the ringer. I've seen stories of like, she came home. They had a bunch of cats. He had gone crazy, killed all the cats, and then was like waiting inside the house with a knife, and then tried to go after her. I've seen some crazy stories that woman went through.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Did you ever watch that show? Like, it was like a reality TV show
of them.
I don't remember what it was called, but
I can't remember what it was called either. I think I watched like episodes, but I think that was a bit past.
We weren't
either
allowed to watch it
before
probably.
or after. I don't even think Tom watched it. I was really big into Bam Margera.
The Osbourne TV show. The Osbournes. It was just called The Osbournes.
The Osbournes. I do feel
2002
like
to 2005.
clips.
So that was probably before. Yeah.
That was pre me being in America. Yeah, they were wild, but can't say that he wasn't a pioneer, you know?
Who else? Let's look at the rest of the Grammys. Let's check this out. Grammy winners. While we're on the topic.
Since we're chatting about it. Kendrick Lamar he's got the most Grammys for rapper. Props to Billie Eilish.
Shows how
I only know 3 of these songs.
I don't even know this song.
I don't know that one either, but I do fuck with Billie Eilish. You liked that Doechii one for a while.
I liked the rapper though, guy. Someone rapped over that song like years ago.
Kendrick Lamar.
I only know those 2 songs. I know of that song, but I've never heard it.
Everything is an abbreviation. DMTF, APT.
Album of the year.
I didn't
Bad
even know
Bunny.
Justin Bieber had an album named Swag.
I thought this album was 2 years ago. Best New Artist, Olivia Dean. I can back that up. I fuck with Olivia Dean.
You really think Best New Artist, though? I
Who
really
else?
only know those 2 songs.
I don't know any songs by any of those people.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know any of those names.
She's a TikTok person. He has that song that's like,
right.
Baby, I'm a dog, I'm a mutt.
Oh, meh.
I kind of like
That's
that
not really
song.
Best New.
Didn't know Lady Gaga had a new album.
Yeah, she kind of flew under my radar. Miley Cyrus, I love everything she does.
I've seen this lady perform this song.
I've seen
so
a
messy.
video of her throwing up on stage.
Yeah, so good for her.
Fucking ball out, girl.
Yeah, great podcasting because we're not reading any of these aloud because we don't know any of them.
Yeah. We're realizing how
Youngblood is the...
Youngblood is the guy that is Baby Ozzy. Yeah, how
Turnstile
is
should win
Linkin
this
Park
one.
getting Best Rock Performance? Do they go like years back?
Yeah, I don't know how any of this works.
Young Blood. On
The Cure,
Deftones.
the Cure had a new album.
I thought they would all be dead.
Best of Seeing Stars, best metal performance.
Wet
Birds.
Legs. I think you've been.
Yeah,
That's been on your radar.
I don't
right?
mind Wet Leg. No, I don't. Turn his TV off. Turn his TV off. Okay. Well,
Well, it seems as though we don't know anyone. Chris Stapleton, I will always, although your concerts are way too fucking expensive.
where's
I
the?
do
Didn't
love
Billy
Chris
Strings
Stapleton.
win a Grammy? Right.
Best bluegrass album?
Oh, bluegrass is different than country.
Yes.
They might not even show it. I want to see what the other ones on bluegrass are actually.
I feel like my lymph nodes are swollen. I can feel it.
Where can I? Okay, I'm just gonna get a bluegrass. If you're still listening, good on you. Bluegrass Grammy winners. Here we go.
Highway Prayers, baby.
Grammy Award for Best Bluegrass. Okay, this is all time.
You went to Wikipedia off the rip. Billy
Billy
Strings,
Strings
Highway
last
Prayers.
two.
Last
Molly
two.
Tuttle won the two before that.
Oh, for Crooked Tree.
Yeah.
Home, Billy Strings 2021.
Michael Cleveland.
Traveling McCoys.
That's the blind guy. The String
Ah.
Dusters won one. Nice.
Didn't know that, buddies. Steel Drivers, they're good.
Steep Canyon Rangers. Cool. Alrighty. Well, now that little side tangent's gone.
Songs of the week.
Songs of the week.
Now that we went down a whole
Rabbit hole.
thing.
We need to get something on where we can show our screen, so when we go in those little just deep dives, people
Yeah.
can see.
I agree with that. Maybe there's a way you can just screen record in here and then you clip it in.
Maybe, yeah.
We'll figure it out, guys.
Palm Tree Boy by Strictly Liquid.
Nice.
I know that song's
Oh,
gotta be
yeah.
about Florida. It's a nice and funky jam.
Yeah, being the Florida boys they are.
Palm Tree Boy, Strictly Liquid. That's my song
Oh.
of the week.
I'm going with a Nick Shoulders song. It's not new, but I really like when an artist can take a song that's out and make it into something different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a song, Tears Stupid Tears, and I just really like the way he does it. It was originally written by a man who was suffering from a schizophrenic episode, and he wrote the song while in that state of mind. And so it's interesting to hear the original and then go back and hear Nick Shoulders' version. I just think it's cool that you can make something so I think he makes it really beautiful. I think the original is pretty beautiful. I think it's very real, but I like that song and I like the way Nick Shoulders does it.
Bada bing. There you go. Great episode, guys.
Ada bing, oh the bong.
Whatever she said. So, we had Vince Herman, legend, on Monday.
Fucking thank you for being here, Yosemite Sam.
Thursday, Jay Blakesberg, legend.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, we have another legend. Not going to tell you guys who it is, but it's a legend. You guys are going to not want to miss this one either. And then we'll have a full Billy Strings preview on Monday too. And then I'm going to be doing lot pods next week, so come find us.
Yeah, my parents are planning to sit in on one, so if you want to meet my parents,
Come on down.
I think they'll be there on the second day.
All right, guys. Well, have a great weekend. Hopefully see you at some shows. We'll see you on Monday. And remember, wherever you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be.